She stared down the barrel of a cartel boss-esque gun in her wedding dress. Victor Calabris broke into the penthouse on her wedding day, determined to execute Sophia just to make her mobster husband watch her die. But Sophia is no longer the weak, neglected wife who cried herself to sleep. Before the assassin can pull the trigger, the bride grabs a crystal vase and launches a desperate counterattack that changes the Mafia hierarchy forever. You won't believe how this blood-soaked wedding ceremony ends. Look at this with me, guys. Picture the most depressing emergency room you can imagine. Fluorescent lights, buzzing like a swarm of angry bees. We have our main girl, Sophia Bellini, looking absolutely wrecked. She is gripping the hospital bed railing so hard her knuckles are pure white, desperately calling her husband. 3 rings. 4. 5. It goes straight to voicemail. She tries one more time, and he instantly sends her to the shadow realm. Now, cut to a massive, insanely expensive penthouse across the city. Her husband, Dante Bellini, the big boss himself, sees her gorgeous face pop up on his marble counter. And what does this absolute clown do? He literally just turns away, like she is nothing. And it gets worse. Right across from this guy, sipping expensive wine and laughing at his jokes, is Gianna, Sophia's supposedly loyal best friend. Are you kidding me? Dante hits the mute button without a second thought. Back in that freezing hospital room, Sophia's hand just drops. The phone slips right out of her fingers. The doctor is standing there, talking, but Sophia is completely zoned out. You can actually see the exact moment her spirit breaks. After 3 brutal years of holding this toxic marriage together, she is finally done. You know, sometimes the people we would take a bullet for are the ones holding the gun. By the time they realize what they lost, we are already a ghost. Hit that like and subscribe button if you feel that, because the storm has officially arrived. Sophia is lying there, staring up at the ceiling tiles. She is counting the little holes in the panels just to keep her sanity anchored to the room. The medical drip next to her bed is ticking away like a slow clock, reminding her that she is still breathing even when she wants to give up. Then, she hears her name, Mrs. Bellini. She turns her head slowly, looking like every movement drains her life bar. Dr. Chunj is standing right there, clutching a chart like a shield with that classic blank doctor face. She tells her the test results are finally back. Sophia feels her throat close up. She has known her body was crashing for weeks, dealing with this insane, heavy fatigue that just refuses to go away. We are talking about the kind of crazy dizziness that had her grabbing onto walls and expensive furniture just to stay upright. Food had basically become her worst enemy, her body violently rejecting every single thing she tried to eat. She whispers, is asking how bad the damage is. Dr. Chun actually hesitates. And honestly, guys, a doctor hesitating is the biggest red flag ever. The doc admits they found some seriously wild irregularities in her blood work. Matching that with the extreme weight loss and fainting, they need to run massive tests. But then the doctor drops the professional act. She looks at Sophia with pure sympathy and asks when she last slept or ate a real meal. Sophia cannot even remember. Her entire life had just become an endless loop of waiting for Dante. She was just waiting for her husband to notice her, waiting for a tiny breadcrumb or proof that she even existed in his Mafia empire. She tries to play it off, saying she has been stressed out. But Dr. Chun is not buying it for a second. She leans in close and drops the hammer. Sophia's stress levels are absolutely skyrocketing. Her body is literally shutting down from intense, long-term emotional neglect. This is not just a bad week, this is years of damage. Sophia starts shaking, grabbing her phone and whispering that she needs to call her husband. She knows deep down it is totally useless, but she dials anyway. She has called this man 4 times in 1 hour, and he ignored every single one. But she tries one last desperate time. The phone just rings and rings and rings. Finally, this absolute villain picks up. Dante's voice is freezing cold, super impatient, like she is a telemarketer wasting his time. He tells her he is in a meeting and whatever she wants has to wait. Sophia stammers out that she is literally in the hospital. And what does the big mob boss say? He snaps back that he is busy planning a charity event with Gianna and hangs up right in her face. Just boom, call ended. Sophia stares at the screen and you can practically hear her heart shattering. Gianna, her supposed ride-die best friend, is the one replacing her. The doctor asks if someone is coming to help her. Sophia puts the phone down and guys, her whole vibe changes. Her eyes go totally dead. She looks up and whispers that nobody is coming. Pure chills. Stick with me here because the contrast is wild. Right across the city, inside a massive penthouse looking out over the flashy Manhattan skyline, Dante drops his phone in his pocket without a single drop of guilt. He has this crazy Italian script tattooed down his neck, and it catches the expensive lighting as he turns back to his luxury leather couch. And who is sitting there? Gianna. She is smirking at him over a glass of red wine, her lips curved into this super manipulative smile. She has been trying to steal the spotlight since day one, acting like a total force of nature wrapped in designer clothes. She asks him if everything is okay, but her eyes are completely cold. Dante just waves his hand, his knuckle tattoos flexing, and brushes his own wife off like she is absolute garbage. Dante complains that Sophia calls about absolutely nothing. He acts like every time he leaves the house, she creates drama. Gianna just widens that evil little smirk and calls Sophia needy. Just like that, the word drops like pure poison in the room. And the craziest part, Dante does not even defend his wife. He knows he should. Deep down, he remembers the fiery, fiercely loyal woman he married years ago. But that tiny sliver of his conscience has been completely buried under all his shady business deals, mafia blood feuds, and his massive ego. He immediately pivots the conversation to the upcoming Gala, demanding that everything be flawless. The powers that my family is going to be there. And after whatever dark history went down with their son, the stakes are sky high. Gianna tells him to leave the whole event to her. She gets up from the sofa, her ridiculously expensive dress flowing like water, and struts right up to him. She gets so close he can probably taste her sharp, overpowering perfume, the kind of flashy scent Sophia would never touch. Gianna practically purrs, telling him she knows exactly what he needs. She casually drags her fingers across his tattooed arm, using that sneaky, familiar touch that has become way too normal for them. Dante's phone vibrates again. It is his wife, fighting for her life in a hospital. But he does not even blink. Instead, Gianna drops her voice into this super intimate whisper and suggests they map out the seating chart. She smoothly slides in the idea that she should sit right at his table to help host. Gianna actually has the absolute nerve to say Sophia is not equipped to handle a Mafia event. Dante clenches his jaw, but the guy actually agrees. Sophia had stopped going to these parties months ago because Dante would just abandon her to scheme with Gianna all night. Sophia used to stand alone by the windows, crying while he completely ignored her. So Dante just nods and gives Gianna the green light, saying whatever she thinks is best. Gianna is practically glowing with pure villain satisfaction. Meanwhile, back on the cold marble counter, Sophia's name lights up the screen one last time before going completely black. In that freezing hospital room, Sophia watches her own phone die, and she makes a cold, hard choice that is about to flip this endless Mafia empire completely upside down. You and I both know the universe loves a dark, gloomy morning to match a broken heart. The rain is still washing over the hospital windows when Sophia basically forces her own discharge. She signs the medical release papers with a shaking hand, completely ignoring the doctor begging her to stay me for more tests. Sophia just flashes But honestly, the word home tastes like ash in her mouth. That penthouse has not been a real home since Dante stopped sleeping next to her. She grabs her stuff, slipping her wedding ring back onto her painfully thin finger. She scoops up her dead phone, completely abandoning the ghost of the woman she used to be, and walks right out of that hospital like a soldier, marching into absolute war. Of course, Dante's expensive town car is waiting right at the curb. The guy is a terrible husband, but his mafia efficiency is top tier. He probably just had some low-level assistant program the car to handle his wife like an annoying chore. The young driver checks her out in the rearview mirror, asking for the destination. Sophia gives him the penthouse address, leans her tired head against the cold glass, and watches the rainy city fly by. She sits there, wondering exactly when New York turned into a giant prison. When she finally rolls up to the luxury building, the fancy doorman gives her that fake, polite nod reserved for ghosts. She steps into the private elevator and the doors slide shut. The total silence in that elevator is honestly louder than a screaming match. Those elevator numbers keep ticking up, feeling like a literal countdown to a massive explosion. The doors open to the penthouse, and it is exactly what you expect. Freezing cold, empty, and designed purely to show off Dante's mafia power instead of actual love. Sophia drifts through the huge rooms like a phantom haunting her own timeline. She passes the bedroom they have not shared in ages. She checks her closet, looking at designer dresses that will not even fit her shrinking frame anymore. She walks past the giant kitchen where she used to cook for a man who never came home. And then, guys, she stops dead in her tracks. She finds herself standing right in front of the one room she's never allowed to enter, Dante's private study, the absolute heart of his criminal empire. Let's get right into the drama, guys. Pictures Masnaz's dusty library flare filled with books this mafia boss Dante never even bothered to open. Sophia is standing there, staring at a framed wedding photo where she actually looked happy, which feels like 1,000,000 years ago now. Then, boom, right on his desk, she spots a tiny velvet box. You already know what that means. Her gut is screaming at her, screaming her walk away, but she opens it anyway. Inside is this super dainty bracelet, totally of the chunky mobster bling Dante usually buys her. And the kicker? A handwritten note tucked inside. For G, something to remember last night. D, listen, the biggest lesson in life is to always trust your gut. When something feels off, it usually is. The bracelet drops from her shaking hands and hits the carpet. G stands for Jayana, her supposed best friend. Talk about a massive betrayal. The whole room starts spinning, and her doctor's warnings about her failing health are echoing in her brain. But guess what? She does not shed a single tear. She's completely out of them. Instead, she grabs a suitcase and goes straight to the closet. She is not taking the designer bags or the icy jewelry he bought her. She only packs her mom's old necklace and some worn-out books. He would not even let her hang family pictures because they messed up his modern vibe. Honestly, the life lesson here is simple. Never betrayed your own identity just to fit into someone else's perfectly curated world. It is never worth the price you end up paying. Once that suitcase is zipped up, she sits on their cold, giant bed and finally writes the breakup letter of the century. She tells him straight up, "I called you 4 times from the hospital last night, and you totally ghosted me. I have been slowly fading away in this yacht-style lifestyle you forced on me, and you never even going to toss me a life vest." She drops the mic by mentioning the bracelet, telling him she knows all about Gianna. She gave him 100% of her love, and he treated it like dirt. She waited forever for him to just pick her. The real lesson here? Stop waiting around for someone to realize your absolute worth. If they do not see your value right away, packing your bags and walking out the front door is the best move you can make. She finishes the letter with the ultimate power move. She writes, "I am done waiting. Do not bother looking for me because I am fully choosing myself over you." She folds that piece of paper, smacks it down on his expensive silk pillow, and slides that heavy diamond ring right off her finger. It just looks like a shiny circle of absolute lies sitting there in the sunlight. Sophia grabs bag and walks right out of that luxury prison without a single glance over her shoulder. 3 hours later, the big bad Mafia boss finally rolls in. The whole penthouse is dead silent, and he immediately gets this super weird vibe. The lesson we can take from this is powerful. True freedom always starts the exact second you decide to choose your own peace over a desperately toxic situation. Dante yanks his tie loose, showing off those edgy tattoos on his neck, stomping around like a guy who just lost a massive bag. His big underground deal completely tanked. 3 months of sneaky bribes wasted mainly because some rat opened their mouth. His knuckles are totally bruised from handling the snitch, and now all he wants is a stiff drink and his wife. Crazy, right? He actually stops and realizes he has not truly wanted to hang out with Sophia in ages. He usually just treats her like an annoying side character in his mobster movie. He yells out her name, but gets absolutely zero response. He heads for the bedroom, ripping off his shirt. It just goes to show a simple truth about life. People always take a solid, loving presence for granted, right up until the second it is completely gone. He checks the bathroom.
Totally
Empty. The closet is wide open with massive blank spaces where her outfits used to hang. Then his heart completely drops. Sitting right on the mattress is a lone piece of paper next to her glittering wedding ring. He grabs the letter and reads it 3 times because his brain cannot process the words. She was in the hospital, literally calling him 4 times from a hospital bed. Meanwhile, he was out sipping expensive wine with Gianna. Then he hits the line about the bracelet, and his blood literally freezes solid. He totally forgot he left that thing out. It was just a pump up for a charity auction. If there is one huge life lesson to learn Dante's massive blunder, it is this: a reckless lack of attention will always destroy the relationships you think are safely yours. The crazy plot twist here is that the jewelry was literally just a PR stunt to make him look like a nice guy. It was never meant for Gianna. But how was Sophia to know that? She had been sitting at Juice's home, watching him spend every single with her so better. She spent years making excuses for his frosty attitude, getting sent to voicemail from a hospital bed. Dante starts spamming her phone like an absolute maniac, but it goes straight to voicemail every single time. He is yelling, begging her to pick up, and his voice actually cracks. This ruthless boss is finally losing his mind. Let this be a serious lesson for anyone listening. Communication is everything. If you leave someone in the dark, they will draw their own conclusions and walk out the door. He dials up his top security guys, his usual terrifying mobster voice totally gone. He orders them to find his wife, no matter the cost. Then the most feared boss on the East Coast collapses onto his empty bed. For the first time in 3 years, it finally hits him how badly he messed up. Days turn into endless nights. His crew turns the city up and down, checking every single hotel and safe house. But Sophia is completely gone. No forwarding address, zero footprint. She ghosted him like an absolute legend. He stops sleeping, tortured by memories of her gorgeous smile on their wedding day. Honestly, the life lesson here is pretty obvious. You can have all the money and power in the world, but it cannot buy back the trust of a person you spent years actively tearing down. All he can think about is how she used to wait up for him after messy turf wars, handing him hot tea and rubbing his shoulders. Then he remembers how she slowly just stopped. She stopped waiting and stopped hoping. He literally watched the spark die in her eyes and arrogantly thought she would just get over it. He chased his underworld power while ignoring her, right up until she flipped the script. Fast forward to 3 a.m. His top enforcer, Marco, walks into the study. The room is completely trashed with dead-end security reports. Marco has that super careful tone you only use when you are about to drop a massive bomb. The lesson here? Never expect absolute loyalty from a partner while you are only feeding them tiny scraps of your time and affection. Marco confirms the hospital rumor. Sophia was rushed in that night for severe exhaustion, sky-high stress levels, and not eating enough. Marco stutters, saying the doctor noted signs of something bad. Dante snaps like a rabid dog, demanding to know what she meant. Marco stares right back at this terrifying Mafia and drops the hammer. Chronic neglect. The doctor said Sophie's entire body was shutting down because she had been emotionally and physically starved for so long. She bounced from the hospital against medical advice just to escape him. Those 2 words hang in the air like a brutal death sentence. Here is a serious life lesson we should all take notes on. Emotional starvation is entirely real, and ignoring someone's pain leaves scars that run way deeper than any physical blow. Let's pause and let that sink in together. Dante's total lack of care literally destroyed her health. His freezing attitude pushed her body to the absolute breaking point. He grips his desk so hard, his knuckles turn white, drowning in a massive wave of guilt. Then his tone drops to a super scary whisper. He asks Marco what the deal is with Gianna. Marco winces, warning him he will hate this update. Gianna has been running her mouth all over town, telling the entire underworld that she is Dante's new girl and he is dumping his wife. That dirty gossip is exactly why his massive business deal went up in smoke. It teaches us an incredibly valuable life lesson. The toxic people you keep around to stroke your ego will always be the ones who eventually burn your kingdom to the ground. The truth hits this boss like a freight train. The rivals backed out because he looked like a messy liability who publicly humiliated his wife. Gianna was incredibly sneaky. She glued herself to his side at events, making sure everyone noticed Sophia was completely missing. Dante's jaw clenches so hard he might chip a tooth. He got played like a total fiddle because he was too arrogant to see the truth. With a voice colder than ice, he orders Marco to hunt Gianna down and drag her in. Marco vanishes, leaving Dante alone with his regrets and that diamond ring burning a hole in his pocket. Listen, the lesson here is crystal clear. Arrogance creates a massive blind spot, and the second you think you are completely untouchable is the exact moment you lose it all. Her parting words are haunting his brain on a constant loop. He swears he will track her down and explain that Gianna was a nobody, and that his wife was the only real thing in his life. But deep down, a brutal voice is telling him the cold truth. He is way too late. Meanwhile, let's cut over to a cozy apartment in Brooklyn. Sophia's is standing by a window, just watching the rain pour down. It has been exactly 14 days since she walked out of that suffocating penthouse, shut off her phone forever, and completely erased herself from Dante's toxic timeline. We have all got to learn this life lesson before it is too late, right? You cannot ignore someone for years and expect a grand apology to fix the massive damage in a single day. Some bridges just burn straight to the ground forever. This spot belongs to her cousin, Elena, the only relative Sophia hid from Dante's crazy background checks. When Sophia first showed up looking like an absolute ghost, Elena dragged her inside and flat out told her she looked like walking death. No sugar coating, which was exactly what she needed. Elena swore her home cooking could beat the Grim Reaper. Fast forward to now, and our girl is finally healing. She puts on some weight. She actually has real energy, and she is surviving the nights without breaking down over him. She is racking up tiny wins every single day. Look, the biggest life lessons here is about healing. Recovery is never some instant magic trick. It is built entirely on small, daily victories and surrounding yourself with who actually care if you survive the storm. Alright guys, you and I are going to unpack this massive train wreck together. So Dante is completely invading Sophia's brain at the absolute worst times. Picture this, she is standing in a hot shower and the water just reminds her of his hands back when he actually paid attention to her. At night, that huge empty space in her bed feels like a straight up insult. She keeps reaching for her dead phone in the drawer, driving herself crazy thinking he is looking for her. Or worse, what if Gianna is already chilling in her penthouse wearing her clothes? The craziest part is she feels numb, and the life lesson here? Letting your imagination fill in the blanks will absolutely destroy your peace. Then Elena pops up like a total boss, handing Sophia some hot tea and totally calling her out. She says, "Girl, you have this look like someone scooping out your soul with a rusty spoon." Sophia actually laughs, but it sounds super broken, admitting Elena is sharp, guys. She never takes her eyes off Sophia and demands to know if Dunn has reached out. Sophia admits the phone is off. Elena goes full savage mode, reminding her that this guy took 3 whole years to touch her. She was drowning, and he was the one holding her underwater. Lesson for today: surround yourself with friends who will not let you go back to a toxic situation. Sophia just stares at T, totally frozen. Sophia is totally spiraling, telling Elena she should have tried harder or yelled louder to make him understand. But Elena completely shut that down, grabbing her arm and dropping straight facts. She tells Sophia she is absolutely not allowed to take the blame for his epic failures. She gave that boss everything, and he just took it without a single thank you. The sad truth is, you cannot fix a relationship single-handedly. Sophia finally starts crying, the first real tears since she ran away from that penthouse, and admits she still loves him. Elena softens up because she knows that is exactly what makes this whole mess so incredibly painful. Meanwhile, just 3 blocks away, a black sedan rolls up. Stick with me, guys, because this is where the plot goes completely crazy. Marco is on the phone in the pouring rain, whispering that he finally tracked her down to Brooklyn. Across the river, the big bad Mafia boss Dante gets the texts and bolts out the door before Marco even hangs up. Now get this, Dante stands outside her building for 20 whole minutes just trying to find the guts to walk inside This is a guy who literally runs a criminal empire, a dude who orders his hits without blinking. But standing in that rain, knowing his wife is choosing a life without him, he is shaking. The tattoos on his hands suddenly look like a joke. Real talk. Losing the person who grounds you will turn you into a coward. Dante hit the barbuster and a woman answers. But it is not Sophia. He announces himself, demanding to see his wife. The voice on the speaker just tells him to go straight to hell and hangs up. But Dante is not quitting. He just keeps buzzing over like a madman, yelling that he is not leaving. The voice tells him to get comfortable in the rain. Dante is literally pressing his face against the wet metal, rain ruining his expensive suit. Let me tell you, hearing a proud boss say please is wild. He just needs to know she is safe. Finally, a different voice comes through. It is Sophia. She sounds so exhausted and just tells him to go home. He sounds completely broken, begging to explain the bracelet. Dante is out there yelling through the intercom that the bracelet was not for Gianna. It was for some charity auction, swearing on his life he would never cheat. And here is the massive twist, guys. Sophia's voice is totally deadpan, and she says she already knows. She found the auction tag a week ago and realized she made a mistake. Dante is super relieved for like half a second before pure confusion hits him. If she knows he did not cheat, why did she bounce? Because he was still choosing Gianna over her every single day. Every skipped dinner, every ignored call, every time he looked right through her. The lesson is brutal but true. Emotional neglect hurts just as much as betrayal. He showed her she meant nothing. She tells him he ranked her dead last, and those words hit him way harder than a bullet. Dante is begging her to open the door so he can fix it. But Sophia drops an absolute truth bomb. You cannot fix 3 years of emotional damage from a wet lobby. Then her voice completely shatters. She reminds him about the time she called him from the hospital, terrified and sick, and he told her to wait because he was busy dealing with Gianna's drama. Dante tries to say he did not know it was serious, but Sophia hits him with the ultimate reality check. He never bothered to ask. He just assumed her problems could wait because she was never priority. Listen up, if someone treats you like an option, you have to walk away. Dante has his hand plastered against the wet door, wishing he could just feel her on the other side. He finally admits he was completely wrong and knows he does not deserve another shot. Sophia just hits him with a cold hard "yeah, you sure do not," and the intercom goes dead. Dante stands out there in the pouring rain for 3 full hours, just whispering her name. Marco finally rolls up with an umbrella and basically forcing the boss into the car. Before he catches pneumonia, but Dante is not heading home to sulk. Oh no. He directs the car straight to Soho to deal with Gianna. Sometimes it takes losing everything to finally open your eyes and see who was actually pulling the strings in your life. Now we are entering pure revenge territory. Dante's crew has already locked down the building by the time he kicks open Gianna's door. She is chilling on her fancy white sofa, looking totally unbothered, giving him this fake, brittle smile. She actually says she was expecting him. Dante just stands there, dripping wet, his legendary self-control completely hanging by a thread. He looks at her and says, "You knew." Gianna plays dumb for a second, but Dante is not having it. He knows she watched Sophia fall apart and actively pushed her over the edge. Gianna gets super defensive, calling Sophia a weak little wife who cries too much. Here is a pro tip. Never trust someone who builds their success on tearing someone else's. Dante absolutely loses it, screaming that Sophia was his wife and she was his. But Gianna just stands up, clicking her ridiculous designer heels, and admits Sophia was simply in the way. This girl goes full villain mode and starts confessing everything. She sabotaged the Morone deal to ruin his reputation. She planted the rumors so everyone thought they were having an affair. She even admits she planted the bracelet and the fake note just to break Sophia's brain. Dante is literally seeing red right now. He asks if she really wrote the note, and she proudly says yes, not even realizing she is standing in the same room as the Grim Reaper. Arrogance will blind you to the danger right in front of your face, guys. Gianna just keeps digging her own grave, bragging that Sophia loved him way too much to ever leave on her own way. But if you plant enough fake evidence and toxic seeds of doubt, even the most loyal person will snap. She actually has the nerve to reach out and touch Dante's tattoos freeze, telling him he is finally free and they can be together. Dante just snaps. He grabs her wrist so hard it is definitely going to bruise and tells her she is completely finished. Gianna is stunned. Dante drops the hammer, saying whatever twisted fantasy she had about them is dead. After watching what she pulled, she is lucky she is leaving the room breathing. Let that be a lesson. Manipulating people to get what you want will always blow up in your face. Gianna is panicking, screaming that he cannot do this to her. Dante just looks dead at her and says he already is. He turns to leave but drops one last devastating threat. By tomorrow morning, all her bank accounts are frozen. She is completely cut off from his money, his crew, and his entire world. He warns us that if she ever even breathes Sophia's name again, he will erase her from existence without leaving a single trace. He walks out, leaving her screaming in her fancy empty apartment. He is already trying to figure out how to fix his broken marriage. Cut to 3 days later, and Sophia wakes up to find her absolute favorite white roses sitting on Elena's doorstep. Sometimes an apology is too little, too late. The roses are wrapped in simple brown paper, with a card that says she is not asking for forgiveness, just chance to try. Sophia tosses them straight into the garbage. The next day, more flowers show up, but this time they are yellow tulips, the exact flowers she casually mentioned loving years ago. During a conversation she thought he completely ignored. The note says he remembers every single thing she ever told him. He just sucked at showing it. She trashes those too, but on the third day, a small package arrives. Sophia hesitates because it is in Dante's handwriting. Inside is an old, beaten-up leather journal packed with his messy notes. You and I know that a physical record of someone's heart is hard to ignore. Sophia opens the book, reads the first entry. 3 years ago, she wrote that she looked at him like he was worth saying, and he promised to spend his life trying to be that guy. She keeps flipping through years of notes. He wrote down her favorite coffee orders, how she laughed, and how guilty he felt dragging her into his dark Mafia world. Then it gets super depressing. He wrote about watching her pull away and having no idea how to stop it. Every time he tried to fix it, Mafia businesses got in the way. He wrote about the bedroom being dark and how he should have just woken her up to talk. Communication is everything, guys. Without it, you will end up writing apologies in an empty room. Let's kick this off. We're diving straight into Donnie's diary. Oh boy. The Mafia boss is literally having a meltdown. He is writing about how he should have been the husband Sophia deserved. But he was too busy with the Morone mob deal. Bro? Really? That entry is the night she walked out. She called him from the hospital. And this guy sent straight to voicemail. Now he is sitting in a massive empty penthouse with a wedding ring in his pocket, realizing he completely fumbled the bag. Here is a quick life lesson for you. Never take the people who hold you down for granted, because once they walk out that door, No amount of money or power can instantly fix what you broke. But our guy Dante, he decides he has to try. So Dante writes that even if she never forgives his massive screw-up, he has to try. Sophia reads this, and her hands literally, she's shaking. Does she toss the book in the trash? Nope. Weeks go by, and she starts taking those slow walks around her friend Elena's neighborhood, trying to get her strength back. And guess what? She spots Dante's mafia muscle lurking on the corners. I secretly got her. She told us to stay far away. And honestly, the crazy part is that she actually finds it comforting. The journals to beach bedtime. Getting totally worn out. Look, it teaches us something real. Sometimes the hardest part of moving on is realization you still care about the person who broke your heart in the first place. She realizes that underneath his whole icy mob boss persona and his endless obsession with business, Dante actually did love her. It does not fix the 3 years of pure neglect, but it gets the gears turning in her head. Her bestie Elena totally clocks this vibe shift and calls her out, saying she is thinking about going back. Sophia looks out over the Brooklyn skyline and drops the absolute truth. For 3 whole years, this man made her feel totally invisible, like an absolute ghost. But now he is sending gifts, bearing his soul in diaries, and acting like she is the most precious thing on earth. The lesson here is pretty heavy. People are incredibly complicated, and figuring out which version of a person is the real one is the ultimate test of trust. Stick with me here, because Elena drops some absolute top-tier advice. She tells Sophia to stop stressing over who Dante used to be. Instead, she needs to figure out who she actually needs him to be right now, and make him prove it with real actions, not just fancy flowers or smooth talk. And guys, that is a life lesson we should all write down. Do not fall in love with potential. Make them put in the actual work. Sophia looks at her shiny diamond wedding ring, which Elena literally dug out of a drawer, and makes her choice. She sets up a meeting at this cozy little Brooklyn coffee shop. It is totally neutral territory, way outside the mafia boss's usual stomping grounds, so he cannot pull any of his usual intimidating alpha male stunts. Sophia is sitting in the cafe and spots him outside first. And oh man, the absolute status of this. Dante looks completely wrecked. The dark circles under his eyes are massive. He has a ton of scruff, and his perfectly tailored mafia suit is completely rumpled. The neck tattoos are practically popping off his pale skin. He looks exactly like a man who has slept in weeks because he realized he threw away the best thing in his life. Sometimes you literally have to hit rock bottom to see what really matters, and that is a brutal lesson to learn. Sophia gives him this tiny wave through the glass, and the big bad boss slowly walks toward the cafe door, looking like a guy who is walking straight to the electric chair. He slides into the tiny booth across from her, keeping a very careful distance. It is insanely tense, guys, just total silence. Finally, Sophia hits him with an absolute zinger and tells him he looks terrible. Dante gives this tiny, broken smile and says he feels even worse. Sophia does not hold back and tells him he deserves exactly that. He takes the hit like a champ, then she drops the bomb. She tells him she read the diary, so she knows he actually loved her all along. But she stares right into his soul, letting him see all her pain, and says his love was never the problem in the first place. Listen up, because here is the truth. Loving someone quietly in your head means absolutely nothing if you never actually show up for them in the real world. She absolutely destroys him here. She tells him his love was completely silent, buried in secret diaries and hidden bodyguards she never even knew about. And while he was playing Secret Admirer, she was literally dying right in front of him from the stress. Dante's voice completely cracks. Hey, he knows he messed up and tries to agree, but Sophia shuts him down instantly. She leans in with crazy intense energy and tells him to shut his mouth. No more explaining, no more apologies, no more empty words. If he wants her back, he has to prove it every single day. The life lesson is blazing bright right here, guys. Apologies are just cheap noise unless they are backed up by pure, consistent change. Dante looks at her, totally stunned that she is even leaving the door open. Sophia hits him with the coldest line ever, telling him she is only giving him the opportunity to earn a second chance. She stands up, tells him to meet her at the same time tomorrow, and drops the ultimate ultimatum. If he chooses his business over her even one single time, she is gone forever. Then she just walks right out the door. Dante is left gripping the table for dear life, his tattooed hands turning white. And guys, this teaches us everything about setting firm boundaries to protect your own peace. So what does the mob boss do? He immediately starts plotting how to win his wife back. For the next few days, he shows up to that cafe 30 minutes early, snags their booth, orders her exact favorite drink, and just waits like a total gentleman. You and I have got to appreciate this character development because it is wild. Dante brings his phone, but literally refuses to look at it. Massive Mafia business calls sent straight to voicemail. His right-hand man, Marco, is blowing up his phone about a critical mob situation. And Dante just texts back 2 words, handle it. Sophia watches him fight his own toxic habits in real time. It is not easy for him. You can see him twitching to check his messages, but he holds back. They sit there for hours, talking through 3 years, absolute mess. She tells him how lonely she was and how that snake Gianna slowly ruined their marriage with sneaky whispers. It proves a massive life lesson. Ignoring this toxicity in Joyina's circle will eventually destroy your home. Dante just sits there and takes the heat without making a single excuse. She tells him about waking up in the hospital and revealing her body was literally shutting because she felt so invisible. When she drops that truth bomb, the big, tough mob boss starts shaking. He chokes out that his neglect almost killed her. But Sophia reaches across the table and touches his hand for the very first time since she left. She tells him she survived. Dante is totally wrecked, saying she should have walked away years ago when he put business deals and phone calls over their anniversary. The takeaway here is incredibly raw. Owning up to your worst mistakes without getting defensive is the only real way to start healing the people you have completely broken. Sophia gets really quiet and admits she just loved him way too much to walk away sooner. The tension right now is completely off the charts. She looks at his face, seeing the dark circles and the pure fear in his eyes. This is a guy who controls an entire underground empire with total authority, but right now, he is absolutely terrified of losing his wife. Instead of gloating, Sophia drops a massive truth bomb. She tells him she is finally learning that loving someone else that should never mean losing your own identity. And Dante is finally learning that real love means taking action, not just making promises. This is a life lesson for the books, guys. True love requires constant effort from both sides, or the whole foundation just crumbles into dust. She squeezes his hand and says that is exactly why she is still sticking around. Fast forward a few weeks, and Sophia gets a huge call from Dr. Chun. Her medical tests are finally looking amazing. Her stress hormones are going back to normal. She is gaining a healthy weight back, and all those brutal physical symptoms from her trauma are fading fast. to keep doing what she is doing. She is finally taking up space and refusing to be ignored. She starts moving back into the massive Mafia penthouse. But slowly, she puts her books right in the middle of Dance Day is listening. It is a brilliant life lesson in action. Never shrink yourself to fit into someone else's world. Make them room for you. Now, her family photos are proudly displayed in the living room, framed by Dante himself. She is officially claiming her territory in the house, where she used to feel like a complete ghost. And our boy Dante is actually putting in the work. He comes home for dinner with his phone completely silent when he works late. He wakes her up with soft kisses instead of sneaking into bed. He actually asks about her day and remembers the details. Look, it is not totally flawless. You and I know old habits die hard. And sometimes she catches him reaching for that phone when a Mafia crisis hits. But the main life lesson here is everything. Progress is never about being perfect. It is about waking up every single day and choosing to fight for the people who truly matter. Yo, listen to this. Dante is finally stepping up and choosing his girl, and trust is slowly coming back from the dead. But just when you think we get a cute domestic cooking montage, bam, plot twist. You and I both know peace never lasts in the Mafia, right? Sophia is in the kitchen trying out some random internet recipe when Dante bursts through the door way too early. His face is locked up tight, straight up radiating that boss-level fury. She asks what happened, and instead of freezing her out, he grabs her waist tight enough to steal her breath. He drops the bomb. Someone on the inside snitched. They leaked the family secrets, and now rival bosses are pushing a hostile takeover. Lesson here? The moment you let your guard down, the snakes in the grass make their move. Sophia looks Don right in his eyes and asks what they took. Dante is furious. We are talking major leaks. Shipping routes, hidden safe houses, the actual names of guys under his protection. Stuff that puts bodies in the ground. She asks how, and he goes full-on Terminator mode, swearing he will hunt them down. He steps back, and you can literally see the switch flip. He turns back into the cold, calculating Mafia emperor. Usually, this is the exact moment he goes her, locking himself in his office to fight a war while she waits in the shadows. She braces herself to be sidelined again. But hold up, massive plot twist. Dante stops right at the doorway. Life lesson time, people. True strength is not shutting out the people who love you when the storm hits. He actually looks at her and says he needs to handle the war, but he wants her in the loop. If this vendetta blows up, she needs to be ready. It is such a tiny detail, but it changes the whole game. She tells him she is not going anywhere. Dante crosses the room like a freight train and kisses her like his life depends on it. Pure desperation and gratitude. Then he is back to business, slamming the office door with his phone to his ear, sounding like the ruthless Don Bellini we know. But before closing it, he promises to be home for dinner, no matter what. 3 hours later, the underworld is totally on fire, absolute chaos in the streets. But guess what? The boss kept his word. The lesson is simple. A real man keeps his promises, even when the whole world is burning. The big bad Mafia boss sits down at the table and actually eats the dinner she made. His phone is totally muted. Tension 100% locked on his wife. Meanwhile, the rival Mironove family smells blood. They think Dante is going soft because he is too busy fixing his marriage instead of Moore's breaking skull. They start crossing lines and begging for a vendetta. But Dante flips the script completely. For the first time ever, he delegates. He hands the heavy lifting to his right-hand man, Marco, and moves his war room meetings right into the penthouse. He refuses to listen to fear in the dark. Listen, the real lesson is that you do not have to fight every battle alone. Sharing the load is exactly what makes a boss truly unbeatable. He keeps giving her the insider updates, just as enough, so she has got prepped for any hitman. Late at night, Marco looks at it and saws what everyone is thinking. He tells Dante he is acting way different, more human. Marco straight up warns him that the street soldiers are whispering, calling him weak for putting his girl first. Dante does not even flinch. He looks right through the doorway at Sophia, who is just chilling with a book, totally clueless. Dante drops the hardest line ever. He refuses to let the mob life destroy the only thing he cares about anymore. If the Morone family thinks his loyalty to his wife makes him a target, he is about to remind them why he is the king. And the lesson? Never mistake a man choosing peace at home for a lack of absolute savage power. That ice-cold boss energy comes rushing right back. You can literally see his tattooed hands flexing, ready to deal out some massive violence. He tells Marco that stepping up for his wife is not a weakness. It just means he finally knows what is actually worth catching a bullet for. Fast forward to a Thursday night, and the vendetta hits the boiling point. Dante gets the drop on a massive ambush at one of his main warehouses. He has to go handle this face to face. He is strapping up, getting his weapons ready like the absolute survivor he is. But right as he is about to head out the door into the crossfire, Sophia steps into the bedroom frame. Here is a massive life lesson. Finding something real to protect is what turns a regular fighter into an absolute force of nature. She looks right at him and tells him to be careful. Think about the crazy character arc here. 3 years ago, she would have just stood there like a ghost, biting her nails and wondering if she would be planning a funeral by morning. Now, she is standing her ground and demanding he look at her. Dante grabs her face with those heavy, tattooed hands and swears he is coming back. Sophia goes full ride or die, telling him he better, because their story is not even close to being finished. He gives her one intense, hardcore kiss and forces himself out the door. Sophia is left waiting, but for the first time ever, she actually believes his promise. Lesson learned: when you finally step up and claim your worth, people have no choice but to respect it. He came back battered, but alive. You and I are about to see the craziest shift right now. The Morone family gets totally off the board. Dante sends a brutal message to the underworld. Nobody touches his wife or his future. It is 3 a.m. when he stumbles back home. Sophia takes one look at him, covered in blood that probably links to his enemies, and drags him straight into the bathroom. No questions asked. She just starts cleaning his wounds, washing away all that street violence. Underneath the monster of the Mafia, she just sees a broken man who is insanely grateful she did not run away. He looks at her while she bandages his arm and whispers that she was on his mind the entire time. The life lesson here: true unconditional support has the absolute power to tame the wildest beast. Dante is laying his soul completely bare right now. He admits that whenever the bullets started flying, he used to only think about his empire. He used to obsess over the power, the money, the legacy of being the top boss. But tonight, the only thing keeping him fighting was the thought of making it back to her alive to keep his shoes. That is a massive plot twist for a mobster. She looks him dead in the eyes and asks if the vendetta is finally over. He gives it to her straight. This specific gang is done, but a mafia boss is never truly safe. There will always be a target on his back and vultures waiting to strike. Life lesson check. Complete honesty is always better than a pretty lie. When you stop hiding the ugly truth, you can actually start building something real together. She just keeps patching him up and calmly says she has always known the risks. He points out she is still here. She orange fires right back that yes, she is still here. Boom. Then Dante grabs her wrist, completely stopping her tracks, and drops the wildest line. He tells her to marry him again. He is literally begging to give her the real wedding she actually deserved. Not some shady backroom deal the Mafia forced on them. He admits he was totally toxic before, but she changed him. Now, he wants to stand in front of the whole world and promise to love her the exact way he should have from day one. Guys, the takeaway is crystal clear. It is never too late to rewrite your own story and give the people you love the ultimate respect they deserve from the very beginning. The bathroom goes dead silent except for the dripping sink. Sophia is having crave flashbacks to all those nights she spent crying alone, all the times he totally ignored her calls and treated her like a ghost in her own house. But then she thinks about the insane effort he has been putting in lately. The flowers, the secret journal, the dinner dates, treating her like an actual queen instead of a background prop. He is not perfect, but the boss actually put in the work to change. She drops a tiny whisper. Yes. Dante yanks her in and buries his face in her hair like he just won the lottery. For the first time ever, Sophia finally feels safe at home. The lesson? Words are completely cheap, but consistent actions will always win the battle for someone's broken trust. The morning after this insane proposal, Sophia wakes up and boom, Dante is just staring right at her. Normally, having a Mafia boss track your every move while you wake up would be completely terrifying. But his face is entirely different now. It is just pure, unfiltered devotion. He says good morning with that super rough, sleepy voice, reaching his heavily tattooed hand across the bed to trace her face. She calls him out for staring, and he smoothly replies that he is just memorizing her. He straight up admits he wasted 3 entire years completely ignoring her, and now he is on a mission to make up for lost time. Honestly, a line like that should have made her roll her eyes into the next dimension. The lesson here? Vulnerability turns the tough guys, the toughest, into absolute softies. But instead of throwing sarcasm at him, she actually gets super choked up. She quietly says they have a whole wedding to plan now. Dante just brushes a kiss against her head and says breakfast comes first. They skip the giant empty dining room and eat right at the kitchen island, like a normal couple. Plot twist, the ruthless Mafia boss is absolutely terrible at cooking scrambled eggs. But honestly, the fact that he even tried means everything. It is just pure domestic peace, the exact opposite of the nightmare they used to live. While scraping his burnt disaster into the sink, Dante pitches a rooftop terrace wedding with just the people who actually matter. Listen up, here is the final life lesson. The biggest flex is not ruling an empire, it is finding peace in the quiet moments. So get this, guys, no fake friends and no shady mob bosses trying to network, just the real ones. The Don actually looks ashamed for once. Sophia hits them with the facts. She only wants people who care about her, not the Bellini crime family clout. She puts her coffee down and is like, okay, you are actually trying. Dante leans against the counter, all brooding with his tattooed arms crossed, looking like the ultimate bad boy who just caught feelings. He knows he best right up to dropping the tough guy act completely and admits that losing her was literally the worst time of his entire life. Honestly, it goes to show that you never really know what you have until it is almost gone. He is totally hooked. He straight up tells her that being without her was worse than dodging literal bullets, worse than getting backstabbed by his own crew, and way worse than any mafia deal going up in flames. This absolute unit of a mafia boss says none of that underworld drama means a thing compared to her. He grabs her by the waist, pulling her right off the stool, so they are totally wrapped up in each other. He swears he will spend forever proving he gets it now. And boom, Sofia goes all in. She kisses him. And this is not some shy little peck fucks. This is a complete power move. She is claiming her man and letting him know she is not playing games anymore. Sometimes you just have to grab what is yours and never apologize for it. When they finally pull up for air, Dante is looking at her like she is the only thing keeping him alive. She is totally breathless and demands they get married again, like right now. He wants the whole entire world to know she belongs with him, even after all the crazy trauma he put her through. She traces the ink on his neck, feeling his heart going absolutely wild. She looks this dangerous kingpin right in the eyes and gives him her terms. She wants exactly 3 weeks to plan the wedding, and she is bringing her own crew, Elena, the cousins from Brooklyn, 0 Mafia associates, and absolutely no fake networking guests allowed. Real talk, setting strong boundaries is the only way to build respect, and she is schooling him right here. But wait, she is not finished dropping rules on this guy. He needs to be fully present. No checking the burner phone, no running off to handle cartel emergencies, no ghosting her at the altar.
Dante, his jaw clenches and he swears on his life he will be there for every single second.
She finally drops this gorgeous smile, which is a huge deal since she has been miserable for so long. She says, "Let us get married." Then, boom, the next 3 weeks are pure chaos in the best way possible. Sofia is out here thriving, picking out flowers, tasting the catering, and hunting for that perfect dress. Her cousin Elena is there every single day roasting Dante's snobby hired planners. Finding joy in the little things really is the best revenge. Elena is an absolute savage, shutting down these fancy centerpieces like a boss. She tells the planner straight up that Sofia wants simple roses, not some wild jungle explosion. The planner gets super defensive, crying about how the boss's wife already proved it. But Elena calls out the hard truth. She says Sofia only agreed because she spent years playing the quiet, obedient mafia wife, but that era is officially over. Sofia actually bursts out, laughing, agreeing that she just wants white roses. The planner is completely stunned. Meanwhile, Dante is actually sticking to his word, guys. He is sitting through cake tastings while his phone is blowing up with gang drama, acting like he cares about color palettes. A real partner shows up, no matter how chaotic their day job is. Of course, it is not all sunshine and rainbows. The old, ice-cold Dante still tries to creep when the mob life calls. You can literally see the guy fighting his own toxic instincts to run off and do gangster things. But he actually forces himself to stay right by her side. It is messy, but hey, real growth always takes hard work and patience. Then just 1 week before the big day, the plot thickens. His right-hand man, Marco, rolls up to the penthouse, looking incredibly stressed. He says they need to talk, eyeing Sofia like she should leave the room. But Dante drops the ultimate green flag. He tells Marco to spill it right in front of his wife. Hearing him claim her as an equal partner like that absolutely warms Sofia's heart. No more secrets between them. Look at this, guys, they are finally a real team. So Marco spills the tea. He says they've intercepted some chatter and a rival crew is planning to crash the wedding. The Calibri family is extremely salty about losing turf, and now they'd want to make a massive, violent statement. Marco looks sick to his stomach as he drops the real bomb. These rivals know about Sofia. They know she is the Don's entire world, and they want to use her to break him. You can literally feel the vibe in the room turn to absolute ice. Sophia watches her husband shift from a loving partner right back into a cold-blooded killer. His hands are flexing, just itching to ruin whoever dared to threaten his girl. It reminds us that protecting the ones we love brings out our fiercest self. Dante demands all the intel. Marco explains that this psycho named Victor Calibri wants to hit the wedding to get revenge and show off his own power. These guys are heavily armed and do not care about collateral damage at all. But the craziest part, they want to snatch Sophia because they think she is the ultimate weakness to bring Dante down. Dante's voiced by drops to absolute 0 degrees. He casually admits they are totally right about her being his weakness. But that is exactly why he's going to wipe them off the map before they even try. Seriously, acknowledging your weak spots is the smartest tactical move you can make. But before Dante can go full John Wick mode and start a street war, Sophia steps right up and grabs his arm. She is not backing down. Sophia looks him dead in the eye and says they are absolutely not cancelling this wedding. Don starts panicking, trying to tell her no, but she holds her ground like an absolute queen. She tells him that for 3 long years, she let his shady underworld business push her to the side. She is done letting Mafia threats ruin her life. Dante argues that this is different. These guys actually want to end her. But Sophia hits him with the rawest truth ever. She says, "Then protect me, but do not ask me to hide in a bunker. Do not ask me to cancel my dream day just because you have haters." Her confidence is off the charts right now. Running from your problems never fixes them. You have to face them head on. This is exactly the fiery energy that made him fall for her in the first place. She is not letting him off the hook. She reminds him of his promise to put their relationship first, telling him this is his final exam. Dante is stressing out, asking if she seriously wants him to risk her actual life for a party. But she tells him to figure out how to do both, protect her and give her the future they deserve. She grabs his face, making this terrifying mob boss look her in the eyes. She tells him she believes in the real man underneath all that gangster armor. Honestly,
someone truly believes it's not a sound.
But on one condition, they play by his intensely secure rules. Dante lays down the law. He wants insane security, eyes on every single door, and background checks on everyone. Most importantly, he demands she stays glued to his side the whole time. She smiles and says that was already the plan. Dante smirks and decides they are going to make this rival family regret ever crossing them. The next few days are absolute madness. We are talking heavily armed guards sweeping the venue, setting up cameras that would make the FBI less, as it is run through a massive criminal database. They even swap out the normal waiters for cartel soldiers who can serve fancy appetizers while packing serious heat. And you know what is wild? Sophia is just chilling. Staying calm in the middle of the storm is a true superpower. You and I would probably be having a total panic attack right now, ready to cancel everything. But Sophia, she is completely leveled up. She spent years being absolutely terrified of her husband's dark world, hiding in his shadow until it literally made her sick from stress. Her doctor, straight up, called it chronic neglect. But she is officially done playing the victim. She realizes that if she wants to thrive in this crazy mob life, she has to stare the danger right in the face. She knows his enemies will always paint a massive bullseye on her back. But here is the major lesson for today, folks. It is way better to be a target standing loud and proud than a victim cowering in the dark. She is owning her crown, and I am entirely here for it. The big day finally arrives, and the weather is absolutely flawless for this rooftop showdown. Sophia is standing in the exact same bedroom that used to feel like a high-end jail cell, but now it feels like a place of actual hope. She checks herself out in the mirror, and the glow-up is real. Her dress is this sleek white silks, number way simpler than her original heavy gown, with no annoying train to trip over. She finally looks healthy again. The dark bags under her eyes are gone, and she just radiates pure life. Taking care of your mental health really does wonders for your outside glow. Ella pops Eleanor up behind her, looking like she is holding back happy tears, and tells her she looks completely stunning. The vibe is immaculate. Sophia tells her she actually feels beautiful, giving Elena a massive hug. She thanks her cousin for being a total lifesaver, for taking her in when she hit rock bottom,
and for yelling some sense into her when she was settling for less than she deserved. Elena grabs her shoulders and says she was always worth it. She just needed a solid reminder. Honestly,
keep friends around who remind you of your worth when you forget it yourself. Then there is a knock at the door. Marco tells them it is go time. Sophia wants massive breath and steps out to their epic second chance. They head out to the terrace, and it looks insane. There are stunning white roses everywhere, exactly how she demanded. Simple, classy, and ready for whatever goes down. Look at this setup, guys. We've got fairy lights wrapped all around the greenery, getting ready to set that perfect sunset vibe. And the guest list? Totally exclusive. We're talking just Sophia's core crew, Elena, the cousins, her day one friends, and only the absolute most loyal heavy hitters from Dante's mob syndicate. No fake business handshakes today. Just pure love. Then there's Dante at the altar, looking like an absolute unit. Impeccably tailored dark suit, collar open, just enough to flash those insane throat tattoos. His knuckles are inked up. You can just feel the dangerous energy radiating off this guy. But honestly, it goes to show sometimes you have to cut out the fake friends and the noise to appreciate the people who truly have your back. Keep your circle tight. Dante is the definition of a walking red flag, a cold, calculated mafia boss who could make anyone disappear. But right now, his eyes are locked on Sophia like she's the only person on earth. She walks down the aisle, closing that emotional gap she thought was permanently broken. She passes Elena, who is straight up bawling, and gets a respectful nod from Marco. The ultimate right-hand man. Everyone here represents the brutal fight they went through to rebuild. She finally reaches her husband, totally zoning out, the efficient. Dante grabs her hands, and his tattooed, deadly fingers are literally shaking. His voice completely cracks as he says her name. It just proves that no matter how tough your exterior is, real love breaks down all those walls and makes you completely vulnerable. Now Dante drops his vows, and guys, it gets incredibly deep. He admits that 3 years ago, he made the same promises, but had absolutely zero clue what they actually meant. He thought having feelings was enough, and the actions would magically figure themselves out. He tightens his grip and straight up confesses he was dead wrong. He treated his Mafia empire as the priority and let Sophia fade into the background, arrogantly thinking she'd wait around forever. He almost lost his entire world because of that ego trip. Sophia is full on crying now, but she stays locked on his eyes. He tells her he can't erase the years of pain or how he made her feel totally invisible. It really hits home, right? A feeling without action isn't love. You have to show up, or you risk losing everything. Dante swears with every single breath he is never making those toxic mistakes again. He drops the ultimate line: she isn't the background of his life anymore. She is his entire life, and the Mafia business is just minor details. Then he pulls out a simple, vintage gold band. No flashy diamonds here. It was his late grandmother's ring, meant strictly for the one woman he couldn't survive without. He admits he didn't grasp what that meant until she walked it out on him. He talks about standing in their empty apartment, holding her goodbye letter, completely shattered because he took his ride or die for granted. This is such a powerful wake-up call for all of us. Never take the people who hold you down for granted, because once they finally leave, all your money won't mean a single thing. He slides that heirloom ring right next to the massive diamond she previously dumped. He promises to love her out loud, not just when the mob's business slows down, but in front of everyone, with every move he makes. The silence on that rooftop is incredibly heavy. Everyone is just trying not to ugly cry. Sophia blinks back her tears and steps up. Her voice is shockingly steady as she drops her own truth bomb. She admits she used to have this fairy tale mindset, thinking love was supposed to be effortless and that caring was enough to make things work out. But she owns up to her mistakes too, tracing the deadly ink on his knuckles. It really makes you think, doesn't it? The best things in life are never simple. Real love requires you to fight through the messy parts together. Sophia lays it all out. Love is full-time job. It is grinding it out every day, choosing your partner over every distraction, and speaking up when you are hurt instead of suffering in silence. She looks right into his eyes and confesses she ghosted her own life, thinking Dante needed a silent wife in the shadows. But a boss doesn't need a ghost. He needs a true equal. She pulls out a matching ring and gets brutally honest. She refuses to pretend the past did not happen, because apologies magically erase trauma. Instead, she promises to stop running and build an unstoppable empire from their broken pieces. You see, guys, ignoring your problems never fixes them. True growth only happens when you face the uncomfortable truths and put in the hard work to rebuild stronger than before. She slides the ring onto his heavily inked hand, fully claiming him. She tells him she is not using this to square the terrifying mob boss the underworld fears, but the guy who burns breakfast trying to cook for her, the guy secretly reading relationship books, and the man who stood in the freezing rain just for a chance to apologize. Dante actually chokes back a laugh, his cold exterior completely shattering. She drops the mic in and then here telling him she is never leaving. The officiant mumbles something about kissing the bride, but these two are so in the zone they do not even hear it. Dante yanks her in for an incredibly passionate, tear-soaked kiss that seals the deal. Here's the lesson. True love isn't about power or status. It's about those quiet, embarrassing efforts you make to actually be better. The crowd is cheering, and for exactly 1 second, everything is totally picture perfect. Then, absolute chaos. A sharp, distant crack echoes through the air. Most people think it's just a car backfiring, but Dante instantly goes rigid. His lethal survival instincts flip on like a switch before anyone else reacts. Marco yells for everyone to get down, violently cutting through the romantic vibe. Instantly, the fake waiters drop their trays, whip out heavy artillery, and form a hardcore defensive perimeter. Elena panics and tries to drag Sophia to safety, but Dante is already in full beast mode, getting there first. Guys, this is why you always have to stay alert. Life can flip from a fairy tale to a war zone in a single heartbeat. Always be ready to protect what is absolutely yours. Dante barks for her to stay with him, his grip locking onto her wrist like a vice. He pulls her tight against him, and out of nowhere heavy firepower slides from beneath his tailored jacket. He is so practiced, it's terrifying. Suddenly, another massive gunshot rocks the rooftop, completely destroying a planter just 3 feet away. Soil and roses get blasted everywhere. Marco hits his earpiece, calling out a sniper from the southeast building, and dispatches a hit squad to take him out. Dante doesn't even flinch. He physically shoves Sophia inside the penthouse, using his own body as a literal human shield against the sniper fire. This right here is the ultimate test of character. When things go wrong and the bullets start flying, your true priorities are revealed by your actions. Return fire starts popping off outside and sounding like absolute thunder. The chaos is muffled, but those thick walls suddenly feel like paper. Dante is frantically running his hands all over Sophia, checking for bullet holes. His face is a crazy mix of cold-blooded Mafia Pacquiao calculator and raw, unfiltered panic. She grabs his shaking hands, swearing she is perfectly fine, and demands to know who is crashing their wedding. Dante's voice drops to absolute freezing temperatures as he names the rival Calibriswan family. They struck way faster than anticipated. Elena and the terrified guests rush in while the security team locks the perimeter away from the glass. It goes to show that your past mistakes will always come back to collect. Settle your old debts first. Dante barks into his earpiece, demanding an update, his hand gripping Sophia like she might vanish into thin air. He listens to the intel, and his jaw clenches so hard it might break. He gives Marco the most ruthless order imaginable. Bring him the rival boss, Victor Calibris. Alive if possible, dead if necessary. The mob boss has snapped. He cuts the comms and looks at Sophia, his tough guy mask totally crumbling. To show raw fear, he starts aggressively apologizing, saying he should have postponed the wedding, tearing himself apart for underestimating the threat. But Sophia yanks him close and shuts that down immediately, telling him to stop taking all the blame. Here is the takeaway. Beating yourself up over a mistake in the middle of a crisis helps absolutely no one. Focus on survival. Sophia grabs pieces, forcing him to lock eyes with her, totally snapping him out of his panic spiral. She reminds him that nobody is dead yet. She owns her choice right then and there. She knew marrying a mafia kingpin meant a dangerous, crazy life with a massive, vast target on their backs, and she still said yes. Dante rests his forehead against hers, visibly shaking, admitting he won't survive losing her again. But Sophia doesn't coddle him. Her voice gets ice cold and fierce. She tells him to stop crying over his toxic world and start fighting to keep them alive. She isn't some weak damsel in distress. She is his absolute equal. It really shows that in any solid relationship, you have to stop sheltering your partner and start trusting their strength. You either fight together or fall. You can literally see Dante's expression shift from shocked to massive respect to straight-up killer instinct. Sophia demands the raw truth, no filters. Dante quickly spills the intel. The rival family has 15 heavily armed guys surrounding the perimeter. They are highly organized, and that sniper, total bait. The real invasion is breaching the ground floor, and they're coming directly for Sophia. Dante's voice goes completely dead. He explains that Victor is out for blood because his son was collateral damage in a past turf war, and he blames Dante entirely. This is a pure, unadulterated vendetta. Sophia processes this instantly, her brain moving a mile a minute to check on the safe room. Always remember, guys, your past actions have a massive ripple effect. You cannot escape it. Sophia confirms the crew is locked down. She asks the million-dollar question. What happens if the hit squad breaches the penthouse? Dante's face turns to stone. He arrogantly claims they won't. But right on cue, the power gets completely cut. Pitch black. A few seconds later, the backup generators kick on, drenching the penthouse in this creepy blood-red emergency light. And in that tiny window of darkness, the enemy finally broke through. You can hear glass totally shattering and aggressive shouting down the hall. The gunfire is practically inside the room now. Dante shoves Sophia into a random bedroom near the escape route.
His gun is steady, his body blocking her completely. It is a huge lesson in staying humble. Never underestimate your opponent.
Because when you get cocky, they strike. Listen to this, guys. The tension is absolute insanity. Dante goes full protective mode, telling Sophia to stay behind him and run if things go south. But Sophia, she is not playing the damsel in distress. She straight up grabs a heavy crystal vase. "We do this together," she tells him. Honestly, the life lesson here is simple. When you find a real ride or die, you face the fight together. Dante just stares at her, totally shook, when boom, because 3 dudes in nautical gas. 2 guys drop instantly, but the 3rd guy ignores Dante and aims right at Sophia. Target acquired, he yells into his radio. Plot twist. They came for the wife, but he never gets to finish that sentence. Because Dante shuts that down immediately. 1 clean shot between the eyes and tactical guy number 3 hits the floor, Blitzlaws like a sack of bricks. "Move," Dante yells, grabbing Sophia by the arm and dragging her over the body eyes. They have to get out now. They are sprinting through these massive hallways that used to be their home, but now it is a total death trap. You know, it is crazy how fast your safe space can become a war zone. The lesson here is to always have a backup plan in life. Gunfire is popping off everywhere. You can hear Marco, Dante's top enforcer, screaming orders as the crew fights to protect the boss. Dante stops dead at the stairwell. Heavy footsteps are rushing up. They are completely surrounded. He pivots fast. They are making a break for the study, so they rush into the study. This is the exact same room where Sophia found Dante's secret journals, the ultimate proof that he was obsessed with her all along. But right now, romance is cancelled because they need the hidden escape door. They are literally 3 feet away when the door absolutely explodes inward. Smoke and debris everywhere. And out of the dust steps the final boss, Victor Calabris, an old silver-haired Mafia don with the coldest, deadest eyes you have ever seen. He just smirks at them, and it is chilling. "Dante Bellini and the lovely bride, how convenient," he says. 4 heavily armed goons step up right beside him. Dante and Sophia are caught in a firing squad. The life lesson here is simple. Your past mistakes will always come knocking when you least expect it. Dante is built different, though. He does not even lower his gun. He just stares Victor down and asks, "Why today? Why ruin the wedding?" And Victor absolutely loses his mind. His voice cracks as he screams that Dante killed his son at his birthday party. An eye for an eye, a celebration for a celebration. That is pure Mafia revenge right there. Dante tries to defend himself, saying the kid was running illegal guns and knew the risks. But Victor is not hearing it. His 23-year-old heir is gone, and he wants blood. The lesson here is brutal revenge is a toxic cycle that destroys everyone involved. Son tries to play the hero, telling Victor to let Sophia go because she has nothing to do with this. But Victor just smiles coldly. She has everything to do with it. Look at this, guys. Victor looks right at Sophia with this sickening, twisted smile. He admits he has been stalking her for months. He saw her suffering, waiting for her to just break on her own. But once Dante brought her back, she became his ultimate weak spot. Victor raises his gun, aiming right at her chest. He wants Dante to feel the exact same pain of losing family. But wait, Sophia is not just going to stand there. Without even thinking, she hurls that heavy crystal vase straight at Victor's arm. Sometimes in life, the lesson is, have to take matters into your own hands and fight back. Her throw completely ruins his aim just as Dante pulls his trigger, and Victor's gun shoots a massive hole straight into the ceiling. Absolute chaos. Dante's bullet drops one of Victor's guards and the room turns into a literal war zone. Gunfire is roaring, people are screaming, and bodies are dropping left and right. Dante slams Sophia against the wall, using his own body as a human shield while he unloads on the attackers. Victor is screaming his head off, but his goons are going down fast. The thick smoke makes it completely impossible to see. And then total heavy silence. The life lesson here is that the storm always passes, but it leaves an absolute mess behind. When Sophia opens her eyes, the study is a battlefield. Victor is groaning on the floor, bleeding from a shoulder wound. Marco's crew literally came out of nowhere to save the day, kicking Victor's weapon away while the rest of his hit squad lies totally wrecked. Dante is standing over Victor like the Grim Reaper himself. His tattooed hands are gripping his gun so tight. He tells Victor in this terrifying, barely human voice, "You should have stayed away from my wife." He actually steps his heavy boot right onto Victor's bleeding wound, making the old man scream in pure agony. Dante is ready to end him right there. No mercy, no negotiation. He aims his gun for the finishing blow. But then Sophia's voice cuts right through his rage. She steps up in her ruined wedding dress and begs him not to do it. Not today. The real lesson here is about knowing when to pull back from the edge of darkness. She tells Dante that Victor failed because Dante protected her. She is trying to ground him before he crosses a line he cannot uncross. Sophia gently places her hand on Dante's tattooed arm, feeling the insane adrenaline rushing through him. She drops a massive truth bomb if he executes this guy right in front of her. On the exact day they promise to start fresh, it ruins everything. It is a true test of character. The lesson here is that true strength is having the power to destroy your enemies, but choosing restraint instead. Dante's jaw is clenched, his gun stays up, and for a terrifying second, nobody knows what he will do. Finally, he slowly lowers the weapon. He orders Marco to drag Victor away. Marco hesitates, but you never argue with the Don. They haul Victor out, his angry screams fading down the hall. The room gets totally quiet, and Dante finally turns to look at his wife. All that terrifying Mafia boss energy completely evaporates from Dante's face. Suddenly, he looks totally shattered and exhausted, barely holding it together. His hands are literally shaking as he reaches for her and admitting he almost crossed the line. He is having a huge moment of doubt, saying he does not know if he can ever be the good man she deserves. But Sophia just pulls him in close and rests on her head against his chest. This is the sweet spot. The life lesson here is that real relationships are not about being perfect. They are about listening to your partner when it counts. She tells him exactly that she does not need perfection. She just needs him to hear her. Dante wraps his arms around her like a drowning man, holding a lifeline, and they finally confess their love. Sophia pulls back, looks him dead in the eye, and says, "Let us finish getting married." Talk about an absolute queen move. Since the rooftop is an active crime scene with bodies everywhere, they move the wedding to the penthouse living room at midnight. It is so poetic because that used to be the exact room where she felt totally ignored, but now it is glowing with candlelight and real loyalty. A simple life lesson for you. Your environment changes when the people in it change. Marco is standing there as the best man with literal blood still on his shirt. And Sophia, rocking a torn wedding dress and smelling like gunpowder, grabs Dante's hands. The officiant finishes the vows, and despite all the absolute madness, they are officially pronounced husband and wife. Dante does not even wait for the officiant to finish talking before he pulls her in for a massive kiss. And guys, this is not a perfectly posed movie kiss. This is desperate, messy, and tastes like gunpowder and pure survival. It is the kiss of two people who literally went to war for their love. The small crowd goes wild. Elena is bawling her eyes out, and even the stone-cold enforcer, Marco, cracks a real smile. Sophia finally knows what it feels like to be truly seen and valued by her husband. The lesson here is that sometimes you have to fight your hardest battles to earn your greatest peace. But the story does not end there, because the fallout is absolutely real. The next few months are rough. They have to completely dismantle Victor's Mafia family and hunt down his goons. Dante has to crush the Mafia power vacuum instantly before rival gangs try to make a move. He is pulling insane hours at dealing with the fallout with absolute cold-blooded efficiency. But here is the massive plot twist this time around. He actually comes home every single night. It does not matter if it is 3 a.m, he is there. He wakes her up gently, asks about her day, and genuinely cares. He starts showing up for the little things he used to ignore, like sharing breakfast and going on quiet evening walks. The lesson here is that consistency is the ultimate proof of love.
Actions speak louder than words. Dante is finally learning how to be a real present partner, and because of that, Sophia is healing.
Her stress frisked down to completely manageable levels.
The doctor calls her recovery a straight-up miracle. Before this, Sophia's body was literally shutting down from emotional neglect, but now, fueled by real love and attention, she is absolutely glowing.
Fast forward 1 year after their crazy blood-stained surprise wedding.
Dante's
trip. Stick with me here, because he does not take her to a fancy resort. He takes her to this cozy, hidden house on the Côtes of Maine. He bought its secret and fixed it up just for her. He walks her inside and calls it a safe house, but not for the Mafia. It is a quiet getaway just for them, far from the underworld. The life lesson here? True wealth is not about showing off luxury. It is having a peaceful place to escape the chaos with your favorite person. Sophia is wandering around, totally speechless. This place is the exact opposite of their cold, intimidating Mafia penthouse. It has warm wood, super comfy couches,
and get this, the walls are painted in colors she casually mentioned, liking years ago. The Don was actually taking mental notes. On the mantle, there is just one framed photo from their second wedding.
They look dirty and exhausted, but they are laughing in pure, unfiltered joy. Dante hugs her from behind, pulling her close. He admits he spent 3 whole years building a dark empire he thought was everything, but none of it matters without her. Listen up, guys. The final life lesson is massive. An empire means absolutely nothing without someone real to share it with.
And that's how a Mafia boss finally got it right.
Guys, picture this. Dante, this literal boss of the underworld who built an empire on cold hard cash, is standing there completely exposed. Sophia traces the ink on his neck, telling him she honestly thought they were done for good when she walked out. She thought her husband was swallowed up by the mob life.
Dante. He doesn't even deny it.
His voice goes totally raw, admitting the old him was just a hollow shell of some with absolute power. But get this, he looks her dead in the eye and says, "We actually destroyed that monster. Now, Everything left belongs to her, especially the dark, twisted parts. Those same tattooed hands that used to sign literal death warrants are now just gently holding her face. Sometimes, walking away is the only way to force real change. Dante lays it all out, telling Sophia she has seen Cena at his absolute worst, making terrible choices, yet she stuck around fast. He swears he is never taking her for granted again. She kisses him, and the chemistry is still totally off the charts. He practically begs her to stay, not just for a quick weekend, but for as long as possible. And then he drops the wildest plot twist of the entire series. The Mafia boss is finally putting his wife before the syndicate. They go completely off the grid for 2 whole weeks. We are talking quiet mornings, long walks, and him being completely useless in the kitchen while they laugh about it. It just goes to show that chasing status means nothing without your ride or die. For 2 solid weeks, it is just them, an ocean view, and zero mafia drama. By the time they head back to their New York turf, the vibe has permanently flipped. That penthouse is not a gilded cage anymore. It is an actual home. Now, boom, façon. 5 whole years. Sophia is chilling by the window at their main estate, watching the sunset. She is 7 months pregnant with a little girl who is already kicking like crazy, clearly inheriting that stubborn boss energy. Meanwhile, Dante is in the other room on a high-stakes call. But you know he would drop the phone in a split second if she called his name. That is the character arc we love to see. Real strength is not about ruling with an iron fist. It is knowing exactly when to soften up for the family you created. The door swings open, and Dante sneaks up behind her, gently resting his hands on her baby bump. He calls her beautiful, and she leans into him, feeling totally safe. Then she asks the big question we have all been wondering. Does he ever regret stepping back and letting his right-hand man, Marco, run the daily mob operations? Dante does not even hesitate. He straight up says never. He admits he built a massive empire, but nearly wrecked his own life doing it. Now he has the underworld power and the quiet peace, and he finally figured out which one is actually worth keeping. The baby kicks E's hard, and the big bad mafia boss actually bursts out laughing. A genuine happy laugh. It is a massive reminder that success means absolutely nothing if it ends up costing you your own happiness. Dante jokes that their kid is going to be absolute trouble, and honestly, with their DNA be a total menace. They just stand there, soaking this insane sunset over the water. Meanwhile, back in New York, Marco is probably sweating bullets, dealing with some crazy turf war crisis. A few years ago, that would have owned Dante completely. But sitting up in Maine, none of the stretch drama matters anymore. Lost and casually drops the sweetest Schloss in ways he did not even know were possible until she came along. She looks back into his eyes, the same eyes that used to be pure ice, and now they are completely filled with loyalty. Sometimes you have to let the old version of Yoff burn down so the better version can take over. Sophia tells him he has spent 5 years proving his loyalty, and Don promises to spend the rest of his life doing the exact same thing. He kisses her, and you can feel the weight of all those kept promises. The sun finally dips down, closing the book on their old toxic life and starting a new chapter. These two completely shattered each other, dragged each other through the mud, and rebuilt their dynamic into something bulletproof. It is not some flawless fairy tale, but it is a real permanent and finally enough. And honestly, guys,
That is the biggest takeaway here. Real loyalty is not just some fleeting feeling you get when things are easy. I hope you guys enjoyed this wild ride today. drop a like, hit that subscribe button,
and stick around for more crazy stories.
This goes back to what I was just saying.
Love and loyalty?
Not just emotion. The choice you up and make every single freaking day of your life.
Even when it is hard, you and I have probably both learned the hard way that you cannot just half-step your way through relationships. You have to commit. So if you're going to pick a path, choose one absolute everything.
A hollow shell like Dante almost did.
Choose your people, choose your peace, and choose to fight for the ones who stuck by you when you were at your absolute worst.
Alright guys, that is a wrap on the Bellini Syndicate saga. I will catch you in the next recap. Stay safe out there.
This story carries a deeply emotional lesson about neglect, love, accountability, and the hard work required to rebuild broken dawn trust. Sofia Bellini is not abandoned in one dramatic moment. She is abandoned slowly and through unanswered phone calls, missed dinners, emotional distance, and years of being treated like an afterthought. Her pain becomes so heavy that it begins to affect her body. This teaches an important truth. Emotional neglect can wound a person just as deeply as visible cruelty. The first lesson is that love cannot survive on feelings alone. Dante may have loved Sofia somewhere inside himself, but he failed to show it in daily actions. He did not answer when she called from the hospital. He let another woman take the emotional space that should but have belonged to his wife. He assumed Sofia would always wait. This is a powerful reminder that silent love is not enough. Love must be expressed through attention, in presence, loyalty, and care. Another important lesson is about self-respect. Sofia finally leaves not because she stops loving Dante, but because she realizes love without dignity is destroying her. Her decision to walk away is painful, but necessary. She chooses herself after years of choosing. This teaches viewers that leaving a harmful situation is not always an act of hatred. Sometimes it is the first act of survival. Dante's journey also carries a meaningful lesson. Regret is not redemption. When Sofia leaves, Dante suffers. He searches for her, sends flowers, writes, apologizes, and realizes how badly he failed. But pain alone does not repair damage. What matters is what he does afterward. He starts showing up consistently. He listens. He puts away his phone. He comes home for dinner. He tells her the truth about his dangerous world instead of shutting her out. Change becomes believable because it is shown through repeated action, not dramatic words. The story also warns us about outside manipulation. Gianna takes advantage of Dante's neglect and Sofia's loneliness. She spreads rumors and isolates Sofia and creates misunderstandings. But Gianna only succeeds because the marriage already has cracks. This teaches that relationships become vulnerable when communication disappears. If trust and honesty are weak, outsiders can easily poison what remains. Sofia's healing is one of the most educational parts of the story.
She gives him the chance to earn trust. A person For viewers, the message is clear. Do not wait until someone leaves to value them. Answer the call. Notice the silence. Pay attention before love becomes grief. And if trust is broken, understand that rebuilding it requires humility, patience, and daily proof.
In the end, Sofia and Dante's story teaches that real love is not proven by possession or passion. It is proven by choosing each other every day, especially when life becomes difficult.